learning as we go.
Yep.
All right, morning, everybody. I see a bunch of folks are popping on here. I know it's just a minute or two until 11, but we'll give another 2 or 3 minutes for any stragglers to sign on, and then we'll get rolling. Thanks. And if you're going to chuckle, you should mute yourself.
Oh, I'm going back and forth here with Michael.
Oh, okay. All right. I see.
Good morning, Bill.
Good morning. How's everyone doing?
Really good, thank you. How about yourself?
What?
Shell train in place.
All right. Well, it's a couple minutes after 11. So if we have anybody else show up, they can just kind of jump in as we're rolling along. So I'd like to welcome everybody to our virtual roundtable session here today, re-engaging the rural economy. This is a series we're doing as the rural team under the right place. And as you know, today's focus is on the manufacturing sector, with a discussion on best practices as we ramp back up our businesses. I recognize a few of you from the conversation yesterday. We had a great first session yesterday focused on HR and talent. And I think we've got our couple technical glitches hopefully ironed out that we had yesterday. And like Kathy Jo said earlier, hopefully the internet and Zoom gods are smiling down on us right now to have this go smoothly today. My name's Travis Alden, Director of Business Development at The Right Place and the lead for our rural team there. And just as kind of a quick introduction for today's agenda, really the purpose of this virtual roundtable is twofold. We really realize the value in connecting you with your peers in the industry, not just locally in your communities, but regionally as well. We all work in rural areas of West Michigan and certainly have many things in common. So really, the underlying theme of today is to, let's learn from each other so we can all be as prosperous as possible as we re-engage with our economy. The intent for this session today is to be as interactive as possible, not really a sit and get type of webinar. So the more we can all share ideas and what we're doing to be successful, the more valuable this time will be for everybody. And secondly, today's discussion will assist our rural economic development team at The Right Place in identifying current industry and business challenges in response to COVID-19, direct our work, and to provide resources based on the challenges that we all talk about today. So with that, focus on manufacturing today. So we really value collaboration at The Right Place, and especially for our rural efforts. So you may know already that the state of Michigan is divided into 10 different prosperity regions. The West Michigan region there, Region 4, encompasses 13 counties, including 6 that the Right Place serves directly. And with that, I'd like to take this opportunity to introduce our rural team at the Right Place and our special guest co-host for today. Kathy, Joe, Jody, and Julie, our small but mighty rural team. Would you guys introduce yourselves real quick?
Well, you said my name first, so I'll go ahead. Kathy Jo Vanderlaan, I serve Montcalm County.
Hi, Jody Nichols. I serve Oceana and Lake counties.
And I'm Julie Burrell, and I serve Newaygo County.
Awesome. And these 3 are fantastic resources and are working hard every day to help businesses in their communities and counties prosper. So don't hesitate to reach out to them if they can be of assistance in your counties. And that goes for me as well. I'm director of the rural team, but also the coordinator for business development in Ionia County. And then our special guest co-host today, Justine and Ben, you want to introduce yourselves real quick?
Sure. Justine Burdette here. I am the Vice President of Technical Services at the Right Place and Regional Director of our Michigan Manufacturing Technology Center West Regional Office. Great to be with you guys today.
And I am Ben Wood with Michigan Manufacturing Technology Center West. I handle 9 of the rural counties in our 14 county region, or 13 county region rather.
All right, awesome. Thanks for being here today, guys. And I know that we also have some of our key partners here today as well, including folks from West Michigan Works, Michigan Works West Central, the MEDC, a couple of community colleges and Consumers Energy and more. I invite you all to feel free to chime in during the discussion part of today's session once we get to that point. So a couple of housekeeping rules. Please mute yourself during this session in order to limit background noise. I do have the mute all feature that I'll use if I need to. If you're unfamiliar with Zoom, you can move and adjust how the little videos of everybody are displayed and where they are on the screen. For this session, you might want to switch to speaker view, so it just shows one, takes up less of the screen, and that way you'll always see who's talking at any given time. We had about 60 attendees registered for this session today. In terms of asking questions, if I could ask you to please use the chat feature, depending on where it is on your screen, it's either at the top or the bottom. And you can either do questions directly to me, and then I'll kind of moderate the Q&A. But if there's something that you want to kind of pose to the whole group, or as kind of an FYI, we had some folks doing that yesterday, you can put it out there to everyone and they can all see that information on there. If at any time you need to exit the meeting, feel free to do so. We will be following up with all of you with an email afterwards to solicit a little bit of feedback from you guys. And then, as I mentioned, we are recording this and we'll include a link to that to where you can come back and look at it after that. We're going to do the best to keep this roundtable to about an hour. However, if the discussion's still really going well and that sort of thing at the end, once I officially close it, we can continue for a little bit longer if there's still questions that folks are talking about. And when we get to Q&A, when I call on you with a question, please briefly introduce yourself with your name, business, and location, and make sure to unmute yourself. I know that's sometimes hard to remember, but unmute yourself individually when it's time for you to talk. So now getting into the meat of it, as we all know, the manufacturing sector is really the cornerstone, really the heartbeat of our economy in West Michigan. Often they are the largest employers in our small communities, and it's essential that we focus on keeping manufacturing as healthy as possible during good times and bad. We also know that you haven't been immune to the impacts of COVID-19, from health and safety of employees and essential business designation, to supply chain disruptions and layoffs. The challenges have certainly been astronomical. And now at this point, I'm going to shut up and let our special guests share their perspectives into this issue and facilitate some discussion on what could be done to make the best out of the situation and position our manufacturers to be as successful as possible. So I just stopped sharing my screen, and Justine, you're up.
All right, let's see if I can get my technical expertise hat on here. There we go. All right, so I think you all should be seeing my presentation here. Let's see if it'll actually go into presentation mode, make it a little bit bigger for you guys. There we go. I think that that's working. So thank you so much, Travis, for inviting Ben and I to this. We are so excited to be here. Ben and I have had a great time, putting our heads together and hopefully getting some good information for everyone on today's call. So there's us again. Thank you, Travis, for the intro. I've been with this team for about 5 years now. Ben, likewise, I think you were hired, what, right before, right after me?
Right
Seems
after
like
you.
a million years ago.
Yeah, right after you.
Yeah. So, we've been colleagues and friends now, for that length of time. It's been a really great ride. Both of us come from backgrounds in manufacturing. A little jab at Ben. His history is a little longer than mine, but he's got that good depth of expertise and knowledge. So wanted to share just a super brief history with you about the Michigan Manufacturing Technology Center. We are a statewide program, so if you have sister plants or locations across the state of Michigan, there are other folks just like Ben and myself who serve manufacturers. We do break it down. We have regional offices across the state, and they are aligned to that regional system. So Ben and I, and then 4 of our other colleagues, actually work out of Right Places, Grand Rapids office, and we serve all 13 counties in West Michigan. So that region 4, we serve them all out of our office. So the purpose of the Michigan Manufacturing Technology Center and the larger federal program that it's a part of is called the Manufacturing Extension Partnership. Its sole purpose is to support small and medium-sized manufacturers. Most of us have manufacturing backgrounds, and really we are offering customized consulting and training to manufacturers to help them be better at what they do. As Travis alluded to, manufacturing is the backbone of our economy, and so this is just a really great support tool for economic developers, for chambers, our community college partners, MEDC. We are certainly a tool in their toolkit. So at the end of this presentation, we're not going to talk about it today, but if anybody on this call is more interested in either what we do, what we offer, our history, where and how we operate, there's about 8 to 10 slides of all of that information, and you will get a copy of that when Travis sends it out after this call today. So it's not something we're going to go over, but it's in there if you guys want it. You can look at it at your leisure. So again, a brief snapshot of what we offer and how we can help any manufacturer. And then I wanted to get into topics for discussion. Like Travis said, this is not meant to be a monologue by any means. I'm actually going to kind of turn the mic over to Ben. We're going to kind of go back and forth. Ben, if you just want to, shout when you want me to change the slide, you let me know, okay?
Sounds good. Thank you, Justine. Good morning, everybody. Thank you for attending. Again, just to preface this, there's a lot happening in our world. Information is still changing very rapidly. And we're here to talk about, what we've learned, some best practices, and there's really no one size fits all answer for this stuff. Everyone's going to have their individual questions. Between our team here, we will do our best to answer those questions or connect you to the appropriate resource to get an answer. So that being said, COVID, as Travis mentioned, has really thrown a wrench in things and how we do things. And the big question now that things are starting to reopen is how do we do this? What do we need? Who can be where? Who can do what? So on and so forth. So if you can go back one slide, there you go. That's all right. So changing your shop floor, that's the first thing we kind of want to discuss. One of the most important things is to have a plan. There is a requirement. Well, let me back up for a second. I want to say something here real quick. You don't have to worry about writing all this down. I think Justine and Travis both mentioned that this will be recorded. And Justine's going to take notes as best as she can. So we'll get everybody's updated with the information that we talked about today. So don't worry about scribbling everything down here. And on this presentation towards the end, you will see slides with all the URLs for these resources. So that being said, have a plan. It is an OSHA requirement. We do have that link for you in the upcoming slides, but it's no different than an SOP or a standard, operating procedure. That plan, we could talk for 3 hours about that plan. So we're not going to get into the nitty gritty, but a lot of it is what you've been hearing for the last 2 months, 6 feet apart. If you can work remotely, please do so. Have a cleaning plan, things like that. Limit the number of people on each shift. This is something that I have been questioned on many of times. Again, it really boils down to common sense. If you can make it work, it is recommended that you do so. So maybe you have to add a shift, or maybe you do some kind of swing shift. But allowing people the necessary distance, 6 feet, between each other is key. And that leads right into product process and flow implementations. Can you look at your processes and the way you move material and products through your facility and keep that space? If you can, it is recommended that you do so, especially in small areas. Ways to do this: conveyor systems. I've heard of, I haven't seen yet because I haven't been in any facilities, but there's actually people that have, wagons, and they'll put something in a wagon and push it over to the next person just to keep that distance. So they're coming up with creative ideas and ways to keep that social distancing. Cleaning procedures, as I mentioned before, that is another big topic. How do you clean? When do you clean? What do you clean? Where do you clean? The frequency. These are all things that, again, we have the URL, we have the OSHA recommendations and CDC recommendations for that. So that link will come up here in a little bit. But these are all things that need to be considered. The way I look at this is, OSHA is a great organization. They're there to keep people safe. They want you to be safe as well as your employees. So, they're not out there to cause a stir. But when you have an EO or an executive order coming down from our governor, they have to follow the rules just like we do. So to take these things lightly, I wouldn't recommend that. I think it's in everybody's best interest to stay safe, listen to the executive order and what's in it. And there is a copy of that executive order. We have the URL for that as well coming up. So, and again, I had talked about allowing, remote workers for as long as possible. We're all getting used to it, working out the bugs, but at the end of the day, I think it's kind of pretty cool. So that's it for this slide. Travis, is there any questions that popped up relative to this?
Not yet specific for content yet. Nope.
Okay, perfect. You can go ahead and go to the next slide, Justine.
Right.
So PPE for employees. Enforcing the recommended PPE for the appropriate risk level. There was a conversation we had yesterday about this. Some of you were on that call. Getting people to do things that are out of the ordinary, or especially wear things that they're not used to wearing, is a hard thing to do. At the end of the day, it is an executive order. It's a safety issue, and it's something that you as an employer, you can require that. So don't be scared to, talk to your employees about this and, enforce those rules. Every situation's different. Like I said, there's not a one size fits all answer for anything. relative to this, but there will be people that will question this. And I think it's very important, and I'll touch on this later, but communicate. Tell your employees why you're doing what you're doing. And it's not only to keep them safe, but the people around them safe. There's very simple examples. If everyone here had the flu and we forced you to come to work, would you want to come? No. Well, that's a safety issue, just like this is. So the PPE, as we all know, is spread very thinly across our country. We can't keep up with the demand. So consider buying in bulk or splitting, getting with your neighbors or people within your industry and talking to them about, how can we get this? Where can we get it from? And can we get it together? You want to create a standard operating procedure for PPE, just like everything else. How do you appropriately wear it? Again, this goes back to the communication. As leaders in your organization, if you're telling people to wear masks and you don't even know how to wear a mask yourself, that could lead to some unwanted conversations. So we do have the guidelines for how to wear a mask, how to wear gloves, how to put them on, how to remove them safely. Again, there's a link for that on this PowerPoint presentation. So that's something you just want to take into consideration. And having the masks, gloves, face shields, hand sanitizing stations available for your employees. Again, there's a lot of people out there that struggle to get this stuff, but there is a link in a future slide here where we have a lot of manufacturers, and I can say a lot, in West Michigan that have retooled and started making PPE. And we can connect you with those organizations. So if you are struggling, that's something that we can touch on a little bit later.
Ben, did you say you were going to bring up that resource later on?
Yes, it'll be we put all the resources between two slides on here, so they're not just spread out.
Gotcha. Okay. We did have somebody bring up, and I don't know if this is a good segue for it. We did have somebody bring up kind of their perspective on involving people into the COVID response team.
Sure.
Jay Kinahan, I'm probably not saying that right. Do you want to unmute and just kind of elaborate on that a little bit?
Hi, yeah, John Kinahan. I'm with Hanson Logistics up in Oceana County. We've got a small shop, about 12 people at our location, but our company overall is about 250. And we had some difficulty trying to get people. We are logistics, third-party warehousing, so we've been active. We're considered critical to, or essential in keeping everything going. So we developed a policy, a COVID response team. We had material handlers, sanitation, and we meet regularly. And with that buy-in from everybody, and everybody part of developing that plan, where we found initially there was some resistance to what was the right way to do it, what was the wrong way to do it. When people had a voice about how they felt was the right way to do it, even if it wasn't the way we saw it, it was still a good way to do it, whether it was sanitation guidelines or people flow and moving things around through the building. That having that cross-section input really helped not have to fight anybody on putting those things forward. And I agree too with supervisors. If you're going to implement a policy, management, supervisors, that means when I go and I'm walking the floor, I'm the general manager, I've got to have my mask on. I've got to be following the exact same policies, making sure that I'm staying my distance no matter who I'm talking to or no matter what it is that I'm doing. So that was something that really helped us at our facility.
I appreciate that input. This is what this is about. Speak up and let's hear what you guys are dealing with on an individual basis. But that's very true. It's very similar to any other training that we do. If you want to force somebody to be organized and clean, but yet they walk in your office and your office looks like a tornado just went through it, it's hard to force somebody to do something that you're not willing to do yourself. So safety is a big concern. And if masks are going to be required, I'd highly suggest that the C-suite and the management level, superiors, whatever you want to call them, that they all participate in that. Anything else on this one?
Nope, I think, go ahead, Ben.
Okay.
Awesome. All right. Oops. Here, hang on. My advancing is not working.
Oh
There we
boy.
go.
Health screening. So I've had a lot of companies call me about this, and there's been a lot of questions about HIPAA and what you can and can't do and the things you can ask. Temperature checks, from what I understand, and please know I am not a lawyer. This is not advice, but this is what I've heard. Even yes, there were some of you on our call yesterday that heard the same thing. We have been told that taking temperature and doing health screenings, asking very basic questions between an employee and an employer is not a HIPAA violation. As long as that information does not get out, the information does have to be documented. How, when, and where, I'm not quite sure. So please check with your legal team when it comes to this. But there are companies that are doing scans, you know, just the forehead scan with the heat gun through a little piece of plexiglass that has a window in it. So there is the social distancing. And then from there, if they have a fever, they go to the right. If they don't, they go to the left, or however you want to set it up. So, but again, this is another way of keeping everybody safe, because we do know that people can carry this COVID virus and not know it and spread it to others. And understand the pros and the cons to doing that. So again, when it comes to this temperature check, it's got to be done in an isolated area. It can't be a bunch of people witnessing what's going on. And so know the pros and cons and talk to your legal team about that. Some of the other options, and I'd say rather than options, a better word is recommendations. Signage and admittance regulations. Put things on your front door, put things on your side doors, only allow certain people in, whatever that looks like. But make sure the signage is there and people know what's happening. Limiting contact is, again, a great way to minimize the risk. So the visitors, deliveries, a lot of people, you know, in logistical companies especially, you know, truck drivers will come in, they want to use the restroom, they might want to use the break room. Some of these things may need to change. Again, it depends on your situation, but those are things you need to consider when you're dealing with these types of situations. Letting people come in and enjoy lunch in your break room might not be the best idea right now. So again, that's something you can talk to your legal team about. Having a separate bathroom for them to use, who's cleaning that bathroom, how often, things like that. With this, there's going to be policy and cultural shifts. Address it, update it, and enforce it. You know, if you're going to put out something, put out a policy or a procedure, it needs to be supported and enforced. Otherwise, it's all for naught.
Yeah, I would say one quick thing I wanted to add, Ben. I was actually on a call late yesterday with a couple of our manufacturers here in the Kent County area, all of whom had been deemed essential and who for the last 8 weeks have been open, working. They've had shifts going, and everyone had implemented a health screening, and most of them had implemented a temperature check as well. And, you know, really had things kind of down to a science. It was actually taking a lot less time than they anticipated. So if people are worried, you know, there was probably a 1 to 2 day delay where, you know, everybody on their staff just kind of had to get used to a different, you know, clocking in, kind of clocking out procedure. And that, you know, the backlash that management thought might be coming if they implemented some of these things was actually non-existent in most of their experiences, that their employees were actually grateful that they were taking these additional precautions. It actually helped, kind of lessen the anxiety on their shop floors, that, they were working with people who, at least at that point in time, had passed this health screening. And so, most of these employers were actually advocating that, like, we were a little leery of having to do this in the beginning, but we've been using it for, 6-8 weeks now. And then it's actually been working really, really well. So, it just, a little bit of feedback from folks who've been doing it, take it for what it's worth. Certainly, again, I would echo everything that Ben has said. Talk to your legal and HR teams. We are not experts in that area. So there is information out there that you guys can find about this specifically. So,
Hey, Justine, a question just came up. Sarah, do you want to ask that? If not, I can just reiterate it. So there was a question that the companies that you just talked about, the question was, did they use a health vendor to perform the screens, or was it on staff management that was doing them?
It was on staff management that was doing it. Most of the time, it was actually something that had been tasked either to supervisors for some of their smaller sized manufacturers, or it was actually a task that was run through HR.
Okay. And while Ben was talking, there were a couple of points that were brought up. And this kind of goes into the question I was going to ask is, for anybody on the call today, are there any specific things that maybe you've developed through trial and error, kind of figuring the stuff out on the fly that now you feel like you have kind of dialed in that's really working well for you? Michael Burns, you mentioned something about temperature checks. You want to mention that real quick for everybody?
The only thing I said about temperature checks, and thank you, by the way, everybody, but the thing about temperature checks is you just have to make sure that you do not do that in front of other coworkers. That can be a HIPAA violation if you do it in front of another coworker. Also, it can set up a new pandemic, a new fear if all of a sudden you're going through a line and everybody knows that if you go to the left, you've got a fever and you have to go home, it kind of throws up a red flag. So as Ben was saying, policies and procedures and SOPs, writing that down and again, utilizing everybody here, what has worked for everybody else in their establishments. But I know that for fact that make sure that it's in an area that's kind of secluded, that nobody can see kind of what's going on. It's a little difficult, but it can be done.
So as a follow-up to that, is that, you mind me asking kind of how you cracked that nut and kind of figured it out on your end?
With what we do, I am in constant contact with state, local, and federal government, everywhere from OSHA to MyOSHA to FEMA to hospital staffs and HR, and so that's what I've gotten through the. It's what I've gotten through the grapevine, basically speaking. If you take somebody's temperature and, you take their temperature and you show it at a, 102 or 103 degree fever, whatever that may be, that is still privileged information that nobody else can know about. So that's where they're coming up with that.
Gotcha.
Yep.
Yeah, and that's why it sounded, that was kind of the feeling I got from my previous call that I mentioned, is that's why a lot of these companies had been relying on their HR folks, just since they are so well indoctrinated into, kind of keeping certain information contained. And it sounded to me as if most of the companies, had gotten pretty creative about where they were letting people enter into their facility. It had a lot to do with how their facility was actually built. They finally found a good use for a blind corner, right? There was kind of a waiting queue area here, and then, you either had to turn or go down a different hallway, right? So it was really about just, thinking about and looking at your space and really getting creative, and just kind of documenting, where you wanted people to stand, and, kind of some people were kind of just using like shouting down a hallway, like, okay, next, so that you were keeping that privacy of your individual employees intact while you were going through that screening process. So people were getting pretty creative with that, particularly having people stand 6 feet apart, I think was also was helpful in this instance, in that people couldn't be so close anyway. So I would say, take a look at your physical layout. You may have to have people enter through a different door or those kinds of things, but it sounded as if people were looking at those things pretty creatively.
Is there anybody here that's kind of figured out a really good system for them, that it's like, maybe there was like an aha moment, oh, we do it this way and now it works, way better, that they'd want to share? If not, that's just fine. I thought I'd open it up. Feel free to just unmute if you want to.
I was just starting to type something that helped us. And that was, we did a mock drill. So what would we do if somebody called in and said, hey, I tested positive yesterday, and called in from home, and how would we proceed with that? And how would we work through their steps, all the contact points that they had going backwards the last day or 2 days if we can. Same thing with what would we have if somebody was at site and they said, I just got a call from my doctor that I've tested positive. So it's amazing how many things that a person touches throughout the course of their day. The coffee pot, doorknobs, of course, we assume that we're doing a good job with sanitizing everything. We had somebody dedicated to that 40 hours a week. But once we went through that drill, it was an eye-opener to all the things, broom handles, everything that they might have touched throughout the course of their day, lift truck controls and things like that. So it was pretty helpful to have that exercise. The other thing that we were talking about, we submit to our corporate office the hours that are related to COVID. So I don't know if we're covering that later, but we have, if I've got 40 hours of time for a person, but I only have 36 hours worth of work, I can keep them on site for the full 40, but then I report 4 hours of COVID pay that person wasn't able to work, but we paid them their full 40. So they got 4 hours of free pay, but we get reimbursed. And I don't know how it works because I'm not in the HR department. And it was related to COVID. Or if we have somebody that is strictly just COVID, so all they do is sanitation 40 hours a week, that is COVID related, and we get some form of reimbursement on that too. Again, I don't know exactly what the details are, but that's one of the things that we report in our payroll weekly.
Travis, is that something that was discussed yesterday on how that works?
Are you talking about the WorkShare program? Is that what we're talking about?
Yeah, I think that's what John's referring to, is what is known as the WorkShare program, but I don't want to misinform. So I didn't know, I mean, being that we had the HR roundtable yesterday, that might be something we should look into a little bit, because I think that's what he's referring to, but I just don't remember it being discussed, and I don't know if I missed it or what. But
maybe that's a question for some of our West Michigan Works or Michigan Works folks. Any of you want to jump in on that? Have any expertise on that at all?
So I'm sorry, I missed, what is the exact question about WorkShare?
So was it Jim or John you were talking
John.
about? Yeah.
John.
There's a if you've got somebody that doesn't have full 40 hours worth of work, but they're doing 35 or 36 or something like that, there's a COVID payment that goes towards the rest of it. I didn't know if they were talking about WorkShare or not.
So in order for WorkShare, the employer needs to apply for the WorkShare program via the UIA website, and they need to be approved, and I believe that needs to happen before July 1st, and that'll secure the employees who are missing those wages for those hours. So if they're gonna work 30 hours a week, but they're usually 40 hours, they're still eligible for a percentage of their unemployment for those 10 hours, but then they're still eligible for the extra $600 a week throughout the COVID relief that goes to the end of July. Is that what you're referring to? But the employer is the one who needs to fill out the application and explain the reason for it. And then their employees will receive a notification in their MyWAM account that this has happened and they've got some questions that they'll need to answer. And then the employer will go into their MyWAM account and they'll actually begin certifying for their employees going forward every 2 weeks. That way they can ensure that, yes, this person's part of a Workshare program, they're being certified for, and they're certifying on their own individually.
And there is a session tomorrow specifically on Workshare that Cindy Brown from The Right Place has shared that UIA is putting on. So I think we're sharing that info later. You could ask more specific questions.
Yeah,
Yes,
we'll make sure we
tomorrow
put that,
at
or go ahead,
11.
sorry.
Nope, yep, that's correct, Kathy Jo. That is tomorrow at 11 a.m.
And we'll make sure that info is in our follow-up email to everybody. We did have somebody else on the call that sent me an issue, sent me a comment on this privately. To her, that didn't sound like it was Workshare, what he was referring to, but it could potentially be internal budgeting or compartmentalization of how that payroll is being paid out for that company. But that's something that I guess every company can do a little bit differently. Any other comments or anything that folks want to make on kind of this screening topic or anything like that? It looks like D. Riley just sent something out. Anything you want to add to that, or just stick with what you had typed out?
Yeah, we have it on order, so it's a couple weeks out of getting it installed, and all of our Seneca facilities are getting this. So everyone entering the facility will go through this, and it's my understanding it does up to 35 people at a time walking through, but it's so specific. It'll take a picture of that person, whomever is running the fever, and we'll email it to a select group of people so that we can address it right away.
That's, yeah.
I guess one thing I'll add before, Ben, if you want to take the next slide, but there was some good kind of step-by-step stuff that was used as kind of a best practice example in our session yesterday from Quad, which is a company with a facility in Greenville, and relevant to our discussion today. So we did record the majority of that yesterday, and we'll make sure we include that as a link in our follow-up email to this as well, just as a reference point.
Sure. And Dawn, if you could maybe share the name brand or the manufacturer of that, the scanner you just bought, maybe just type it into the chat.
Okay, well, it's actually, the corporate office is purchasing all of them, but I know one was Sony. There was Sony and there was another brand, but I'm not sure what the other brand is, but yeah.
Okay, just so people know, because there's a lot of them out there. So, but it's a starting point for people if it's something they're interested in. That'd be great if you could just throw that in there. All right, on to supply chain. This is one of my favorites right now. I'm sure it's everybody else's favorite too. So supply chain has been disrupted beyond belief, not only in the US, but throughout our world. It's chaotic. When you get up and running and thinking you're ready to go, and then you call to get supplies and nobody responds, that could be an issue. So during your reopening process, or even prior to, if you are able to have essential employee and an essential employee come in, or some essential employees come in, supply chain's something that you want to look into before you invite all these people back to work. Who's open? What's their capability and capacity? How much inventory do they have? What are restrictions that they're facing right now? What's the lead time? All of those very basic questions. Something to definitely something you want to know before you get everybody back to work. Who needs similar materials? Again, we're going back a couple slides. Justine, you can stay on this one, but I'm going back a couple slides. Get with your neighbors, get with your, companies within your industry, and can you, get material together? Kind of get a twofer maybe, or something like that. And if somebody does have a lot of inventory on a product you need, are they willing to sell it? That's another avenue to look at. Going as far as reaching out to your competition, that's not out of the question. I've seen and heard a lot of people do that, not only for COVID, but in other situations, throughout my manufacturing experience. And it's amazing how many people are willing to help. because they understand the value of good competition. So, and then diversifying suppliers, trade off with quality, change terms, whatever you need to do. I would venture to say some people out there, they limit their suppliers, and that could be a very scary thing. So I would recommend, while we're talking about suppliers, diversification is always good. Whether we're in a pandemic or not, it's always good to have multiple suppliers for the same products. Again, that to some, that might be common sense or common knowledge or something you've been practicing for years. But for those of you that are new or have been considering it, I would highly recommend looking at who else can supply you, to your needs. On this slide, you'll also see 2 URLs. These are 2 resources that you can use to source out material that you need. The Pure Michigan Business Connect website is on there, and then the Proud to Manufacture in Michigan. Highlights, I mean, you can get in, you can search products by product name or whatever it is that you need, and a list of manufacturers within our state will show up. You can also promote your product on those websites. So just keep that in mind. And then here we are again with communication. Nothing is more important throughout all these slides than communicating with your employees. I think I've seen a couple chats on it, but as long as they're up to speed and they're understanding what you're doing and why you're doing it, that should be very beneficial to you as a leader, or to you as a business owner. When you do things and keep people in the dark and just say, hey, do it because I said so or because we have to, I dare say that's not a really good way to promote people wearing PPE and things like that. Let them know why you're doing what you're doing. Get them involved. I think somebody earlier in the chat, I think it was John, said he got his team involved, and they sit down and they meet and they talk, and what would you recommend? What would you recommend? You're the one wearing the mask and running the machine. What can we do for you? What do you need? Things like that. Those questions and conversations go a long way. Has anybody had an experience like that? Either whether it is, thank you, Michael. Empower your employees. There you go. Have you had a discussion, whether positive or negative, with an employee about PPE and what they're wearing and why?
I was going to say, Ben, before we open it up for comments or questions, one thing I wanted to add here is that in some discussions that I've had with folks about their supply chain and how they're managing their business going forward, they've actually taken this conversation upstream and either talked to their customers and or looked at their production schedule, what were they supposed to be making and running in the next 90 days, and basically just sitting down and having a huge discussion about what can we reprioritize, right? So chatting with your customer, can someone hold off on taking delivery of components or your final assembled product? Even customers have been really flexible in terms of like, no, I'm not ready for that yet because of their own disruption to their own business. Or, if you are supplying, another essential manufacturer in the economy, as some people are asking for things ahead of time. So just recognizing that your entire production schedule is probably going to be like confetti for a while. And so trying to make just some sense of that noise and then kind of layering on top, what do you have, what inventory do you have that you can actually make and then get things out the door. So it is certainly, I think, going back to that point about collaboration, this has really been an all hands on deck. If your organization operated with communication silos before, you have got to figure out how to break those down. Because if you are not talking to other people inside your business, you're missing a huge window of opportunity to solve things upstream. So with that, I think we can go back to questions and comments.
I was gonna, I know we've got some MEDC folks on here today, maybe to put Corey Utley on the spot, who serves Ionia, Montcalm, and Berry counties. Corey, since we're talking about supply chain, any more info on PMBC you'd wanna you want to mention? Corey, you still on? Maybe not.
Is Bill Kratz
I
on?
Yeah,
was
Bill,
muted.
Amy?
I'm sorry.
Oh, there's Corey.
Okay.
I was muted. I'm here. Sorry about that. Yeah, I'll jump in real quick, and then I'll have Bill, my colleague, Bill Kratz, jump in with anything that maybe I don't cover. So the state of Michigan has a great program, Pure Michigan Business Connect. Ben mentioned it. And it's on the most basic level, buyer to supplier, good business strategy for connections. This is a program that's existed for about 7 or 8 years. It's not exclusive to the COVID-19 crisis, but it's been a great tool that the MEDC has helped really promote to identify ways to connect PPE and COVID-19 and safety related supplies to the companies in Michigan. And actually we get a lot of outreach from companies outside Michigan because they know Michigan's the manufacturing hub of the country, right? So I'll share maybe in the chat there on the side a link to the Pure Michigan Business Connect platform. I really encourage companies to think about it not necessarily as products. If you're registering as a supplier, you think about it more as capabilities. So we have companies that across West Michigan and across the state that have shifted what they're doing to be able to produce more products for PPE and things like that. Everybody talks about Ford and GM and some of those. We have a lot of great small companies in West Michigan that are doing the same. I have a company I work with in the Thumb, which is another part of my region that manufactures filters for the boating industry, the marine industry, and now they're manufacturing masks. So I would really encourage you, when you look at that, to think about capabilities and not necessarily about products. If you register as a supplier. Now, again, as a buyer looking for PPE, that information exists out there. I know the Right Place is also putting together a list of medical and PPE related supplies. It's focused on West Michigan suppliers, but what I like about their program is it's much more vetted. Ours is quantity, theirs might be a little bit more quality. Ben, I'll let you tell me if that's correct or not, but that's kind of how I've been perceiving it. So I'll go ahead and put a link to the Pure Michigan Business Connect platform where people can go on and do a search, and I'll put my email address there. You're welcome to reach out to me if you have questions or are having trouble figuring it out as well. Did that cover what you were looking for, Travis? Or Bill, do you want to jump in on anything?
Good from my perspective.
Yeah, I think that was a great summary and overview. You know, just the Pure Michigan Business Connect resource is a great resource for goods and or services. So it's not just widgets and products, it's also a resource for services. So I don't want to reiterate, Corey, you did a great job summarizing.
This is Harmony Nolan with Consumers Energy, and I just wanted to say we were one of the founding members and partners with the MEDC on the Pure Michigan Business Connect program. And we have spots on our website, consumersenergy.com, where you can sign up to be a vendor. Through this crisis, we are looking at targeting small businesses and buying even more within this great state of Michigan. So that would be another option for manufacturer companies that haven't participated with us as a vendor before. We buy all kinds of things. And if I might, I just wanted to say, since this is a manufacturing roundtable, that if you as a business are having trouble paying your bills, your utility bills, please call our business center at 800-805-0490. And we have different payment plans that are available out there. We're really wanting to help businesses through this this COVID situation. We have small business survival kits on our website that can help people through different programs. We have some coaching to businesses, but the sooner you get us involved, the better. The other thing primarily for this audience is, money is an issue through this. And so we have programs that allow businesses to save money through energy waste reduction and demand response. And we would love to talk to you about those programs and ways that you can save money on your utility bills. And so calling us at that number again is so important. I can put that number in the notes as well.
Yeah,
Harmony,
Harmony, or I was going to say, yeah, Harmony, go ahead and put that in
Yeah.
the side as a reference, or in the chat as a reference. That would be awesome. I just realized we're getting close to our hour window. So Ben, I want to make sure you've got time to get through your next couple of items there.
Yeah, in Harmony, thank you. That's all great information. If you can put that in the chat, we appreciate it. And
Sure.
Bill and Corey, thank you as well for your inputs. So the last slide that's up for discussion here is just some other topics that Justine and I have dealt with or talked about with some of our clients is culture, communication, listening to employees, and leveraging technology when and where possible. So culture and communication are key. I think we can all agree with that. There's really, this is a great time for your employees to see who you are and what you're about. What kind of leader are you? What kind of culture do you want? Are you worried about the almighty buck, or are you worried about the safety? Those are things to think about, and just kind of reposition yourself, reset yourself. I know it's hard to do this sometimes, but if you take a moment in time like this, with this pandemic, instead of thinking about the pandemic, think about what you can do to better yourself. We all have a little bit of extra time. Our daily schedules have changed in one way or the other, but how can you better yourself? Excuse me. How can you better the culture, communicating with your employees, things like that, and listening to them? Listen to their concerns. One thing that I absolutely love to do is have some sort of suggestion box. I've seen this done multiple ways. I've seen a physical box out in a shop or in an office, or any facility for that matter, and random suggestions get put in there. I've also seen where there's a computer set up in an area, or 2 or 3 computers, and it's all comes from one email. It'll be like request from, at abccompany.com, but that request will get emailed to the HR person, or leadership or whatever that is, and they can email in suggestions of how to better things. So just some other things that we've come across. Justine, if you can go to the next slide.
Yeah, I totally can. So this is actually the resource library. We won't spend a ton of time here. We've kind of mentioned some of these resources throughout our discussion today. A couple of things there. The top ones are some of our Right Place websites. If you're looking for a playbook, we have those. Our list of PPE suppliers. Corey, thank you so much for mentioning this. I will say we appreciate the shout out about quantity versus quality. I would say that the Michigan Manufacturing Technology Center has actually been vetting suppliers on your PMBC website. So both of them are of really great quality. So we have been doing some of that behind the scenes work. There is a West Michigan COVID website that a couple of organizations are running together. Lots of good things there about legal, HR, business continuity, stuff about the health of our region. It's all being collated in that section. For those of you who are thinking about how you're going to continue to make money, and what maybe some of your next opportunities are, something that the Center West rolled out was a toolkit. You can request to download that at our website. If you are looking for a fillable template, that preparedness pandemic response plan that's required by the governor's last executive order. There's one there by HR Collaborative that we have found to be really intuitive and user-friendly. The response plan, if you're looking for more of like an infographic one, that's just a couple of pages, we have a guide there. OSHA's got some great stuff about just general guidance, guidance on cleaning, their record keeping, and then CDC, all of their recommendations. They've got a short bit about taking on and off PPE. They've got good Q&A section. And then just a couple of things about managing remote employees. If you are doing it now and you've never done it before, here are some of our favorites. Certainly, this could be a very exhaustive list. We just put our favorites on here. So, like I mentioned before, thank you so much. Travis, I'll put you back in the driver's seat here in just a second. Again, you all are going to get emailed a copy of this presentation, so you have Ben and I's contact information. We'd love to hear from you if you've got questions you want to talk about offline. And then, as I mentioned before, there's some additional slides about all the things that the center has going on, just in case you are wondering. So with that, Travis, I'm actually going to stop sharing and turn it back over to you.
Sorry, I realized I wasn't unmuted. So one thing that I was going to bring up real quick as kind of a reference point, we were talking about PPE. Hopefully you guys are able to see this. This is the resource on the Right Places website that was mentioned earlier. That I think this just went live this week. But this is that list of PPE suppliers that's organized. This is West Michigan. It's organized by type and that sort of thing. So Ben, anything you want to mention on this since you were part of the team that put this together? Anything additional?
Yeah, I mean, I'll reiterate what Justine and Corey talked about. These are all vetted suppliers. It was a very, very long process. It is a very interactive process. So in our opinion, these are all very trustworthy suppliers, and they're right here in Michigan. If you are a supplier, I thought I saw a comment that someone else retooled and they're making face shields. And if you want on this list, please contact me. Safety Shield, maybe, I think is who it was.
Yep, I think you're right.
Yep. So please reach out.
Yes, I'm so sorry. Yes, it's Star Safety Shield, and we don't make face shields. We're making the acrylic, no, I'm sorry. We're making the polycarbonate like counter shields and partitions.
Okay.
And so, yes, I'd love to be able to be part of that digital supply source, because we're also on Michigan Chamber. We've been vetted with the Small Business Association of Michigan and Traverse Connect. So we're on those as well. Thank you for that.
Yeah, reach out to me and we'll get that taken care of. The last thing I want to add about that PPE supplier list, it's for your use. If you see a supplier on there that you want to contact them. You do not have to call me, you do not have to call Justine. They know they're on our website. We got approval from them. So call them direct and say, hey, this is what we're in need of. And you can take it from there. So please share that, use that, whatever you need to do with it.
So thank you very much, guys. I know we're right about at quitting time. I'd be remiss if I didn't give our partners at West Michigan Works and Michigan Works West Central an opportunity real quick. Olivia, I know Jonathan's on the line. Anything you guys want to mention? I mean, you can't talk about manufacturing and not talk about talent and workforce, right? So anything you guys got coming up?
So we do have our second virtual job fair that is happening in 2 weeks on May 20th and 21st. Registration for employers does end tomorrow at 5 o'clock. Information is on our website, or you can reach out to me and I'm happy to share it. It provides an opportunity for employers to go ahead and register, and then job seekers go ahead and they sign up for specific and they see they have an interest in them. And then you can have a nice 15-minute conversation with your potential employee and then work on your own interviewing and onboarding after this intake session.
And we at Michigan Works West Central, we're also working to coordinate a virtual job fair that same week, the week of May 18th. So if any employers in our 6 counties, the northern half of Region 4 are interested, please contact myself or Mary Bennett, and we'll work with you to schedule that.
Yeah, and if you guys wouldn't mind throwing just your contact info in the chat real quick, just so folks have that real handy, that'd be awesome. So any closing thoughts, Justine or Ben, from your perspective?
No, just thank you so much, everyone, for the gift of your time. We certainly appreciate it. We hope that you found this of value. Like we stated earlier, you'll get a copy of the presentation, so we'd love to hear from you if you have additional questions. Ben?
Same thing. You know, I know some of this may have been, for the lack of a better term, elementary to most of you or some of you, some of the ideas we shared, but please understand that we're not the company that can give this advice. I mean, there's some things the resource page is where you're going to want to look. So I would highly suggest everybody take a look at those resources on slides 9 and 10. And it does a deeper dive into things for you. So if you are struggling with anything, please, please, please reach out to us. We can connect you. We can help you. Michigan Works. You can call Jonathan, Olivia, the economic developers on here, Julie and Jody. We can all help you, and that's what we're here to do. Travis, Bill, Corey. I'm forgetting somebody, and I'm sorry. I'm just going to say that because I'm not going to keep naming names. KJ, there you are. But no, we are here to help, so please don't hesitate if there's anything we can do. And thank you for your time today.
Yeah, thank you, everybody. And to echo what Ben said, all of us really do partner kind of in that economic workforce development realm. So there's really no wrong door. Reach out to any of us and we'll do everything we can to connect you with the right folks and with the right assistance. So I guess with that, in closing, I want to thank everybody for joining our virtual roundtable here today. You can grab our contact information. I was going to share my screen one last time. You can grab information about all of our resources and whatnot, our contact information on the Right Place website there down at the end, rightplace.org. And just as a quick heads up, we do have a few more of these virtual roundtables coming up tomorrow and then a big chunk of next week. So from local community leadership, retail, dining, service businesses, rural tourism, anybody that you know that kind of works in those spaces, feel free to pass them along the information. We'd love to have them participate in that and again, share ideas and kind of help everybody else be successful. So I mentioned earlier, we're going to be sending out a follow-up email to everybody who registered for this today. Quick feedback survey. It looks like our recording went through smoothly, so we'll give you a link to that as well as to the HR and talent one from yesterday, which we referred to a couple of times. So I guess in closing, reach out to us anytime. We're here to help. And yeah, have a great day. Be safe, wash your hands, and take care, everybody.
Thanks, Travis.
Thank you.
I will stay on for a minute if anybody does want to ask any questions or anything.
Sounds good. Thanks, everybody. So Ben, I won't close the meeting then officially if anybody's
we'll just
gonna hang out.
Nobody's got any questions. We're good. We can all hang out. Dan Mitchell, you're still on.
But he's muted.
Yeah, he's up.
Nope, he's
gone.
He's like, I'm done with you guys.
I'm out.
All right. All right. Anything else for the good of the group?
No. Mary.
Hi, yeah, I was trying to get those emails from Michigan Works. We're in Ludington, and because of this 4-week startup, if you will, our core business, this is not what we did before. We were in the airport business doing conveyor systems and partnered with a company in Boston, and this light bulb went off 4 weeks ago to do these shields. And we're not plexiglass, we're polycarbonate. So what I'm trying to do is get some resources of my husband to be able to talk to about hiring more people, and one of them would be from colleges and things where kids are coming right out of school and they're trained for this, and we can bring them right on and whatnot. And this has been a great platform more than any of them, because I have to get our company up and running with the SOP for the COVID, and this has been fabulous. I look forward to getting the email from you guys. So would I contact the two folks that I wrote down, Olivia and Jonathan Epley, at MishWorks. We're in Region 4 about
Yep.
how to get employees.
You'll want to
ahead.
contact Jonathan.
Jonathan.
Jonathan will probably hook you up with Mary Bennett. I do handle Mason County.
Okay.
I'd come up and see you, but I'm not allowed to.
No, that's okay.
But you'll get connected to Mary Bennett most likely. Mary knows me.
Okay.
We've worked together multiple times. So Mary, if you're looking for kids that are, coming out of college or high school,
or anything, I'm gonna have to let my husband and his brother that own the company sort of vet that. I'm just trying to get resources for them.
Sure. Another good resource is West Shore Community College and Crystal Young.
Right, Crystal Young. Yeah, I think that's who we've already reached out to over there.
And
but I didn't know.
Crystal will be gone for 8 weeks, probably starting anytime soon.
Oh, okay.
So she'll be out for 8 weeks. But there's, her assistant, and I can't remember, Kara. She'll be able to help you with that stuff.
Okay. All right. And the other websites where we can get on as a manufacturer, as far as letting other businesses know that we can